By the way, as the temperature increases, we radiate more into space, so that decreases the heat engine. We've just been able to do the first calculations of that, so taking off another watt for our current temperature rise. That gives us about 2 watts per square metre of the heat engine. I don't think watts per square metre mean very much to you. But tonight we have the final of the European Football Cup with Spain against Germany. The result will be interesting to see. But there's about the equivalent of 8 kilowatt fires on the football pitch, which you'll be seeing tonight. Add that up to a global total, and you're looking at about 1 million gigawatts. Mind-blowing numbers, aren't they? 1 million gigawatts over the whole Earth. Or if you want to put that into kilowatt fires again, that's 1 trillion, 1 million kilowatt fires. That's some heating. You know, sometimes somebody just absolutely deflates your bubble in a presentation like this. Somebody once said to me, you know, they're not using kilowatt fires anymore, it's all central heating. And I said, oh, for goodness sake, I have to think of something else. But this will do for now. Gives you an idea. Oh, by the way, the heating is increasing by about 25% per decade. Oh, and that rate of increase is increasing. Climate stabilization means reducing that heating to 0. Otherwise, the temperature goes on going up. How do we do it? Well, just like that. Just like that. We have to make an intervention that slows the rate of heating, stops it, brings it back down again. If we simply bring it down to the 0, to an equilibrium, we will have succeeded in stopping runaway change. We will have stabilized the planetary climate, but at a cost. Because the temperature increase at stabilization point will still lead to catastrophic impacts and tipping points and chaos in many of the climate systems. So we also have to go through some period of global cooling into negative radiative forcing, as they say, to make certain the temperature doesn't exceed tolerable limits. And then we come back to thermal equilibrium. That's the overall strategy. It is not, of course, a strategy being addressed through the IPCC processes, the Montreal protocols, and so forth. They are addressing a climate agenda that is way out of date from the reality of the system as we know it today. I want to go back. I think we could look at this in a little bit more detail. Have we got time? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I know I'm really pushing the envelope of your tolerance this morning, but let's have a go. This then gives us an outline towards an effective strategy for climate stabilization. At the moment, with business as usual and fossil fuel emissions going up and up and up, the attempted interventions do something like this. They say we have to bring emissions down through a process of emissions reduction to stabilize concentration of carbon dioxide and descend to a low carbon economy. And there are many solutions and processes and arguments and negotiations, most of them stalled in an attempt to do that. That is a family of solutions based on the 1990s understanding of climate change. It has particular problems in the end game because all of these strategies actually reinforce a low fossil fuel use economy. Very high cost, very high value, to be traded, bartered for, struggled over, negotiated with, capped, taxed, shared, whatever. But the financial structures built around that perpetuate the low carbon solution. We have to do better. So these structures and solutions are dysfunctional in the end game. We face an imperative to move beyond a low carbon economy through a zero carbon economy and into a carbon removal economy. We have to stop the use of the toxin to which we're addicted and then detox the system and get clean on the other end of it. We have to do that at a global level and in the shortest possible time span. There's your strategy. The change in value system begins to treat fossil energy that adds to the stock of greenhouse gas no longer as an energy source that we treasure and use and want to share and have rights to use in the process of development. It is an energy source whose time is over. It is a threat to the life support system of the whole planet. And equity, generation by generation, demands that we treat it as an ecotoxin, not as a scarce resource with high value. An ecotoxin to be removed as quickly as possible. So what we did was we turned the axis upside down. Instead of seeing emissions and energy going up, we're actually seeing the depth of the planet descending into deeper and deeper build-up of the toxin, of the pollution that is threatening our life support system. Business as usual forces us deeper and deeper into this abyss. The task to come out of that with emissions reduction, to go through zero carbon into an emergent carbon removal economy in the shortest possible time. So the cross point needs to be moved back towards the present as fast as possible, and that slope on that line needs to be made as vertical as possible. That's an immense transition. And the solutions that we now require must therefore be based on the current understanding of climate dynamics. I wonder how that happens in terms of energy fields. Well, on this diagram, we look at the total energy used in the world by the human system. That's 100% of it. If we go up and down, that's 100%. And at the moment, it's almost 100% being used up by fossil fuels. We say, slowly we need to move the change out of the energy sources of darkness from the underworld, the toxin developing ones, and move into sustainable, solar-based or wherever, but certainly ones that no longer put toxin into the atmosphere, and squeeze out yesterday's energy and celebrate the emergence of the energy fields of tomorrow's world. What a transition. What an opportunity. What an emergence from darkness into light. From the underworld into the celebration of nature and the input of energy that is in constant throughput from the source of life in the sun. We move from the lunatics who drove. They were called lunatics. They were a group of businessmen who rode home on horses late at night and they were only met in the full moon. They called themselves the lunatics. They were the founders of the Royal Society in Great Britain. We moved from the domain of the lunatics into the domain of the solatics. Now, obviously, the amount of energy available globally may dip during this emergency intervention. We may have to power down, become extremely efficient, lead to a loss or a dip in the growth rate of economies globally, and manage that socially with clear understanding of what's happening until and as the opportunities of tomorrow's world begin to fuel the energy requirements of our civilization. Meanwhile, there will be increasing penalties for the emissions to the atmosphere of carbon dioxide from fossil stock. James Hansen, in his testimony before Congress just a couple of days ago, called for possible litigation to companies whose strategy had led to the disinformation in order to protect their profitability.